participants after the webinar. We are using this Zoom webinar format that does not allow participants to switch on microphones and cameras. So please use the chat box if you want to share comments with everyone. There is a few people that are introducing themselves in the chat. Feel free to do that. Name and organization could be fantastic. And if you have any questions for speakers, use the question and answer box. And we will collect all these questions, and then we will discuss with the speakers in the question and answer sections. Finally, on the second half of the webinar, we are going to use an interactive tool to collect your feedback, but we will let you know the instructions a little bit later. So with all that said, let's start. I guess you are seeing my screen now, the presentation. Here is the agenda for today. We are going to give an overview of the project. Then the colleagues from the Catalan Fire and Rescue Service will introduce the fire analysis framework that's being developed in the AFAN project. We are also going to see some of the tools that will be produced during the project, and one particular example that will be presented briefly by ENSOSP. We will have then a few question and answer. Then we would present the concept of the AFAN network that we are presenting today. So what does this network offer to individuals, organizations, or existing networks? What are the engagement levels? How can you support this network? How can you participate? And what do you expect from the AFAN network? This would be the sort of questions that we would like to interact with you later. And finally, the webinar will end with next steps. So there is a calendar of events for the duration of the project that we would like to know your interest on that. And we also want to establish channels for communication and engagement. So we also want your feedback on that. And at the end, if there's time, we're going to have another question and answer section. Okay, with that said, let me give you a brief overview of the project. This is what we call the summary or the fact sheet. So the AFAN project stands for Advanced Fire Analysis Network. It's a partnership of 6 partners from 4 different countries. And those partners, 2 of them are fire and rescue services. There are 3 training centers and 1 network expander. You can see here the project budget. We started in January 2021, so last month, and the project will last for 18 months until June 2022. At the bottom there, you see the partners. So Pau Costa Foundation is the coordinator. We have the Catalan Fire Service as a partner, DREAM Italy as a partner, ENSOSP, Balabria, and South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. This is the partnership. So the objective of this project, the main objective is to formalize a European network dedicated to share knowledge on wildfire and with a particular focus on fire analysis and fire assessment oriented for decision makers. And as sub-objectives here, there is the goal of scale up existing regional and national initiatives, share that with international initiatives as well, to share knowledge and existing capacities and skills. We also want to create the basis for an operational fire analysis network that is based on trust and support that can work across Europe. And we also want to engage with other domains. Here we are talking specifically about fire analysis or fire assessment, but there's also the interest to exchange with other domains of wildfire, understanding, planning, it's mentioned here, and also other groups of experts in other risks. So as specific objectives, we try to keep them smart. And the idea is to provide a complete picture of the existing fire analysis knowledge, capacities, skills, tools existing in Europe. We are planning also to define a novel network structure to efficiently exchange these best practices and knowledge and know-how. So the network is active and exchanging between its members. We want to identify protocols to design this common framework, and this is for fire analysis, for remote assessment, and to assist in better wildfire emergency management. We want to propose bilateral agreements between these network participants, and we want to improve the existing fire analysis and skills through a mutual learning process between the network members. The way we are going to achieve that is not just to work with the partners of the project, but to engage with a broader network of fire analysts and stakeholders that are interested in this topic. And we have set a number of opportunities to interact with each other. Here you see the calendar. As you know, it's a 18-month duration. We are here in the webinar of presentation to the stakeholder network, and we are planning an online workshop that will happen in April. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. And then there are 3 events that are likely to be, well, they were meant to be in person, but they are likely to be hybrid events where some people can join online in different topics, as you can see here. Later on, we are also going to talk about those. And some of the key outcomes that we are planning to achieve. So we want to have a map of the existing fire analysis expertise and knowledge across Europe. We want to provide guidelines of fire analysis competence and skills. We want to develop a database on existing technology, science, and resources, and also relate that to the competences and skills that are defined in the guidelines. We want to be able to translate relevant resources to English. So relevant resources that are in different languages in Europe, they are available to other countries. We want to propose guidelines on the use of tools, science, and best practice adapted to those capacities and skills for fire analysis. Also, guidelines for remote assessment teams, and propose some principles for sustainable network structures in the way that we should proceed in the future. All of those are going to be developed a little bit later. So our main goal is to develop this network. Well, not to develop, to formalize the network, because we are aware that networks already exist, but to promote this AFAN network of trust and cooperation between the different participant organizations and regional and national networks. We want to enhance sustainable collaborations between the different actors of this network. We want to help capitalize and exchange best practices in fire analysis and training, research, and so on. We want to increase the European response capacity to wildfires, enhance resilience of the response systems, improve interoperability of the fire and rescue services, and promote cooperation, and prepare for fire assessment teams to be more efficient in fire analysis. So this is a brief summary. We have also created some Twitter account and a website for communication. You can see the links, the link to the website and the Twitter account, so you can join here. And if you need more information, you can also contact us. Okay, this, I guess, is the project overview. We would now move to the first section of the fire analysis framework, which I guess is Edgar, who's going to introduce that part.
Okay, thank you, Núria. Good morning, everybody. I'm Edgar Nebot from the Catalan Fire and Rescue Service. I will do this first part explaining what we are thinking about, how to define, how to describe the fire analysis. And then Marc Castellnou, he will join us and he will give you some examples. I will share my screen, sharing a presentation because it will be more clear for you, of course. And okay, I hope you can see my screen. Yeah. Okay, so the first part of this webinar, we want to share with you our idea of what we are thinking about when we are talking about fire analysis. Oh yeah, we want to focus the fire analysis and assessment in front of the challenge that we are facing. All of you know that we are in new scenarios, complex and uncertain scenarios, and how fire analysis could help us in order to define what we can do and what we should do in each incident that we are managing. So the first thing that we want to explain is, well, the challenges, well, when we are working in no capacity scenarios, because we are overwhelmed, or the fire behavior, we can't fight this high level of fire behavior. There are a lot of new scenarios that we don't know, we have no experience, and most of them, they are not predictable. So we have to deal with high levels of unpredictability and rapid change that are changing our scenario, and it gives us problems on safety. We have been working with some of you in past events, like in Portugal, like in Greece, and other more, and all this experience has to be shared and has to be the base of define the competence and the skills that we want to give to the European Union in order to improve these goals, that have this project, and how to share, how to help together in this kind of emergencies. We, as we said, we need to improve the capacities, not only in having more opportunities, also in focus efforts, because when we have to balance, when we have to order and prioritize the different objectives, we need to understand which is our scenario and where we are working on, and we have to build robustness to our organizations to avoid collapse, and just to avoid collapse, we need to how we can build a certain scenario to encapsulate this uncertainty in when we are doing the decision-making process. So to do that, the first thing that we want to share with you is what we can expect from fire analysis. Most of us, we have different approaches, but at the end, I hope we can agree with that there is like a discipline, like a science, like an art, and fire analysis use knowledge, experience, and provide capabilities for decision making. And of course, it has many dimensions, not only before, during, and after the emergencies, also at different operational, tactical, or strategic levels, and also can use a lot of products, tools, methodologies. So all this amount of concepts, all this amount of what is using our fire analysts in our countries is what we want to collect and organize, describe, and share with you. To do that, one first axis where we want to define the fire analysis is according these decision-making process levels. We have defined five different levels: position, capacity, mission, vision, and situation. And in each part of this axis is where we will define and we will allocate the different competences and skill in order to classify themselves directly with these definitions. We will explain you and we will give you some details, but at the end, each position has his own meaning. Position, it means when and where we will have an opportunity to win. Capacity is about the development of the operations, to use opportunities, is related to the capacity of the fight suppression according to the fight behavior. Mission is when we have to choose. We should prioritize objectives and we have to focus the efforts in which one are the most important. Vision is talking about the idea of the final resolution of the incident, is what we could say strategy or strategic scenario, is when we are accepting chosen consequences. And at the end, with this approach, we are trying to reduce known sources of uncertainty at the cost. And the last one situation is, well, when we try to avoid the blindness to change the infotoxicity and understanding which are the sources of the uncertainty, to be sure that we realize that which are the thresholds and the key parts where we have to focus in order to understand what is the uncertainty that can give me unsafety positions. In the other axis, we have used the idea of how changing is our scenario. We have defined just 4 positions: fixed or variable scenarios that are stable but with expected variations. Changing a situation when the scenario change, and decisions, well, are reliable for a time but expire, so we need to put controls on our operations in order to be sure that the reality and that we are working and our scenario is the same. And the last one is the uncertain scenario, when we have unexpected changes, and then only some of them may be known, and most of them we have to expect, but we can't see them. These two axes give us a big square where we can put competences and skills in order to harmonize what we are thinking and what we are developing in the fire analysis and assessment teams. We want to create a framework, an European framework. So we have to harmonize. We don't want to standardize. We want to harmonize in order to be sure that all the different fire analysis and assessment developments that are in each organization could feel here, and everybody have their own place, but of course using these two axes in order to be sure that we are understanding the same, instead that we are using different words to describe what we are doing. So this is why we have thinking in use this kind of table. Then now I will give you just some examples of proposed competences and some of the methodologies or tools that we are thinking that we are using in that competence, just to give you a more clear idea about we are working on, and then Marc will explain, will give you some another details. The first one is talking about position and in a variable scenario. For example, we could put here this competence that is to anticipate where and when we will have opportunities to deal with expected known variations. There are a lot of tools, procedures, and methodologies used for most of you, and here there are just a few examples, but this competence is the one of that we are one of its more used in our organizations. This anticipation of the place and the time where we can win. When we are talking in this same scenario, this variable scenario about capacity, the competence that we are thinking is, for example, is to provide the capacity to perform operations in sector or locations on field in front of forecast variations. So we have certain and traceable changes. So for this, we could use weather forecasting, fire space simulators, fire suppression capacity threshold, and all these tools on this all these methodologies can help us to help our decision-making process as a fire analyst to in this gap in this part of the table. When we are in a changing scenario, known but not visible, the one of the competence that we are developing is to provide the capacity to perform operations in sectors to deal with change which are difficult to foresee but highly probable. In this competence, we are using other different tools and products. Most of they based on probability and also in efficiency. So this is another sort of examples for this competence. And when we are talking about the mission in this changing scenario, we can see another kind of competences like this, for example, to focus efforts on creating known scenarios that have changed, which are difficult to foresee but highly probable. At the end here, is where we are using the anticipation concept, where the fire analyst is creating scenarios to give to the incident commander in order to develop all the operations and all the coordination and all the planning. So in this sense, there are a lot of tools can help us, for example, online tools or lessons learned, or some signals or indicators of change that we have to keep in mind in order to monitoring and to understand when this scenario will change, and be sure that I understand that what this change, which impact have this change in my organization. And the last example of competences is in talking about the vision, and in the last scenario level, talking about uncertainty situations. At the end here, we want to build strategic scenarios to reduce the uncertainty in a framework where to have greatest possible control over the consequence of our decisions. Here, not only we, also Portuguese people, also people from US are using fire polygons methodology and to define this final strategic scenario. And also is important to define this opportunity cost assessment for the incident management. So these are just examples about what we are working on, defining these competences and the skills, and how we are understanding in this kind of sort of classification. And I don't know if Marc is here, but if not, as soon as possible he can give you more examples, just to be sure that what we are understanding and the focus that we are putting in this project to define these competences and skills are well understood. And the next steps that we have for the next weeks, the first one is an European map and a database of fire analysts. Here, Paul Gilly, our colleagues from the ENSOSP will explain you more of this. And then the next will be working on competency skills proposals, giving the feedback of you and all the colleagues, and next discussions about how we are using these tools and best practices, and how we are implementing this during last remote assessment incidents. So these are the next steps. So and maybe Núria, if Marc is not here, we can give the word to Paul Gilly.
I am there.
Okay, Marc. Okay.
Okay. Let me know if you see my slides.
Yes, Marc.
Okay. Okay, just to complement what Edgar was explaining and provide a short example of how we are pretending to use fire analysis and how we will integrate that inside the decision-making of different fire and rescue services in Europe. We provide this small example. Let me see if I can project it. This is a small example of a fire starting nearby Barcelona area in an area surrounded by woodland urban interface. areas. And this is a basic scheme, but it's just to provide the concept of strategy, tactics, and operations based on vision, mission, position, and capacity. Those things that Edgar was explaining. So fish, normally the operations guides, they arrive to the site and they decide to start operations and based on a projection of the fire behavior. Normally, wildfire analysis provide a projection of fire behavior in terms of what the fire will look like depending on the meteorology and the fuel and the topography. But we need a step forward and apply that more directly into operations, because our fires, they don't last normally weeks or days, they last hours. And normally the decisions we take at the initial stage of the fire, the initial 1 or 2 hours, are the decisions that mark the evolution of the fire for the next hours or including the next day. So this is a clear example of a fire that is going upslope following the west wind, and I am just providing easy scheme of the right flank moving into the ridge and the left flank moving also into the ridge. Basically, the fire will arrive to that small ridge and will start a going down process. Basic analysis means that the fire will change behavior and be easier to catch in the going down than the going up. But on the going up, the left flank will have much higher fire behavior than the right flank, because the left flank is longer, and being longer, it has more inertia to build up. And so it also has another issue, that is that the fire can get into this small valley, and getting into this small valley, it can make bigger and longer runs, and doing so, it will create a bigger fire. So that's how we build the analysis. That's the vision. What the fire can do. The fire can go up the slope. He will slow down going down the slope, but the left flank, it will open a door to be much bigger. That's what the fire can do, just opening at the left flank. What the fire wants to do, he wants to follow the wind direction in that topography following the ridge. He wants to go from the northwest to the southeast, but mainly he can move to the northeast into that valley. So that's the difference between what the fire wants to do and what the fire can do. That's the vision. And our mission is fixing what we can do to reduce that fire potential. Of course, working on the left flank, it's the main goal of the initial attack operations, because it's where we will get the most efficient work out of our effort. But of course, the fire will get up to the ridge, going down. It's a short down, and as soon as he will get down there, he will start another up again to a new urban interface area. So that's when the initial dilemma of any operational decision making starts. What's first, the left flank or the right flank, or both at the same time? So we need a lot more resources. How we prioritize that? Then that's how we call defining tactics. So which tactical, the main goal or goal tactical 1 will be the left flank, the goal tactical 2 will be the right flank, and then the 3 tactical step will be the future run uphill in the right flank once the fire has completed the down slope. So writing down the steps the fire has to complete to achieve what he wants to do opens us the door to identify our opportunities where we can be. Of course, this goes step ahead of the classical analysis, which is understand the fire behavior in terms of flame spread, or understand how meteorology will affect the fire behavior, just to translate that in how the fire will move and identify the processes and the moments where we can achieve that movement. Of course, this fire can escape our capacity of control, and doing so, he will open a different scenario that will go further away than tactics. It means strategy, and strategy, it means the initial schematic scenario. It's the blue one. It means that what we were intending to stop the fire, just at the ridge, stopping the left flank and the right flank, and using the down slope after the initial ridge, or we lose the fire, and the fire can get to both urban interface areas. To do that, we work normally in a kind of polygons approach. Is that the fire sheets concept that are used normally in fire analysis in America, but it's a polygons of potential we use here in Europe, and it's just building a map for a tree decision of the fire, and that map we can take it out of the proper map and build a proper tree decision. It means the connectivity of the different pieces of the landscape can be drawn based on fire behavior. It means red is out of control, yellow is a flanking fire, green is a backing fire, easy to fight. So that allows us to draw different scenarios. So the initial attack scenario was the dark blue. If we lose the right flank, we go to the light blue. And if we lose the left flank, we'll go to the yellow scenario. So the biggest scenario, or the biggest potential of the fire, includes everything. But of course, you can see in that decision tree that the connection between 0 and 1 is critical, because that connection, which is our initial priority in the left flank, it's opening the biggest chunk of the potential of the fire. So if we cut 0 to 1, our scenario cannot go to 6, 8, 11, and 9. It will go from 7 to 6, but it will be a backing fire and easy to put it out. So it will be a success if we kill 0 to 1. That kills more than 50% of the potential of the fire. So that's strategically, that's the main goal. And then we can kill 0 to 2 or 2 to 4. Of course, fire can go 0 to 3, but it will be again backing really easy. But if we kill 0 to 3 without killing 2 to 4, then the fire from 4 will go again to 3 and to 7. And as soon as we has lost 4 or 3, we are losing 5 and 7 inclusive. So that decision tree provides a vision of the cost of opportunity of every decision we make. So we intend to bring the analysis into operationals, not as a tool telling you how the conditions will look like or what you should be aware of. We pretend to build analysis inside a European way of thinking, which is operational from the beginning and tactical analysis from the beginning. And building those tactical maps, what we provide is the answer to the question of which one will be the consequence of the decisions we are applying. So if you decide go right instead of left, you will open the door for the fire to burn the biggest potential. If you go left instead of right, you directly reduce the potential of the fire by half, by 50%. And then if you forget about the head and you go to the right flank, then you reduce the potential down to 25%. So if we can build that analysis from the beginning, just condensing all the fire behavior and awareness of the scenario into kind of strategic scenarios to draw tactical maps and the consequence of decisions, then we will have a fire analysis system that will fit perfectly inside the mental structure of what is a fire and rescue service, the way Europe has been working traditionally. So that is just a clear, short, small scheme, very simplified of what Edgar was explaining. Thanks.
Okay. So Edgar, have you guys finished, you and Marc? Okay. So let me remind you to the spectators that are on the other side is that we will have answers afterwards the next presentations that will be done by ENSOSP. I'm not sure it will be done by Paul or Wilfried.
Hello everyone, Wilfried from ENSOSP. I can give you some explanation on the map and the database. to produce the map, we have, first of all, a deadline of July, and we will work on this map during this semester. And each partner will gather the information about fire analysis internally, and we also ask all the experts to aggregate more information for this map. This map should have professional focus, and we need to think what information should be displayed on the map.
Wilfried, sorry, are you sharing your screen, because we're not seeing anything?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Now it's better?
Yeah, now we can see it. Thank you very much.
No, sorry. We have different tools available, and I can just show you this tool, which is UMap. And on this example, we just have the 6 partner of AFAN project. And now we just have the name of the partner, but we need to think what information are useful. And the first reflection was we need general information, like maybe an email, the name of the experts, the legal entity name, the category of legal entity, so maybe the city, the country. And after that, we also can have other section like a specific competencies on prevention, preparation, and anticipation, or coordination, command and control, post-crisis assessments, knowledge on fire analysis. That's an example I can show you here with 2 French entities. And we can also add information on events related to fire analysis, maybe the motivation to join AFAN, and implication on other UCPM initiatives. And something needed is the you have to accept to be on the map. The third thing is that the deliverable due in this project is confidential, but the map maybe will be shown on AFAN project website, and for sure it will be used by the European Commission. So that's the first reflection we have. And after maybe today, we can listen your recommendation. Do you think that some categories are not useful, or maybe we don't have some relevant information? And we definitely want to define a form, a definitive one, to be sent to all the partner and all the experts in the project. we would like to have a first version of this map in April or May, in order to have enough information for the deliverable. And our reflection was also on the map and the database. The database is for the second task. It's a database on existing technology, science, and resources. But of course, it will be better to send only one survey to all the experts and to gather more information in one time if we can. But maybe we won't have all the information in April or May, so a second run could be needed early in September. So that's another reflection, and we also need your point of view for this process. I already talked about that. Map and database are developed simultaneously. And like I said, maybe we can have on AFAN website some information, parts of information, depending of the acceptance of the experts. I think that's all the information I can share today. Of course, more if you can give you some feedback, that would be very useful for us.
Okay, Wilfried, thank you very much for the presentation. So for everybody, just to give you a small resume of what is of the two presentations. So under a AFAN project in task 2.1, we have to develop and screen the existing skills and competences that there is at the moment at a European level. And this is what at the moment we're working, especially Bombers de la Generalitat de Catalunya and ENSOSP. They're screening all these competences on a screen there is around Europe, and we will put that into the database that Wilfried was just explaining, and then we will show it also through a map. So at the moment we're defining what fire analysis is, because when not every organizations and every individuals understand the same concept of fire analysis and defines and uses the same methodology, even though the methodology is not the most important thing. The important thing is that we all understand the discipline of fire analysis and the science that is behind it. So at the moment, this is the first step that we are trying to accomplish under a AFAN project is to define fire analysis and to screen all these skills and competences that there is at the moment in different organizations at the European level. So said this, we would like now to answer your questions that there is at the moment that we have, and please think that this network will be useful and sustainable only if this different stakeholders are part of it, okay, and you are active in this network, so it can be useful and also sustainable over the time after the project once finished. So it will depend a lot on the stakeholders and how active they are under this in the network. So let's go for the first question, and this one goes, Edgar, for you, or Marc. And Alexander Hill from FE asked, will you include fire investigation like cause and origin, but also broader understanding of fire, who's behind them, why, what effect in AFAN? I feel fire investigation is a great discipline that helps to build better fire analysis. Just an idea. So what do you think, Edgar? We should, or Marc, we should include fire investigation into the discipline of fire analysis?
Well, Juan, there are a lot of proposals of how will be this approach of the fire analysis. Of course, we have to take in account all the feedback that we can receive for our colleagues, and we will consider. At the end, we have to discuss which kind of competences we want to put the focus. But of course, could be an idea. Yes, of course. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, good. And then another question from Rob Gazzard from the Forestry Commission in United Kingdom. Excellent presentation by Marc. Does the decision-making tree focus on the priorities of the potential impact? Example, hierarchy of human life, property, and environment on the potential maximum area burn? We'll be grateful if you can explain.
Sorry, Juan, the last last part of the sentence, just the last part.
He's asking, when you make the decisions in the decision-making process, if you focus on the what is called the priorities of hierarchy of human life, property, and environment, you know, that we make decisions based on those. First, human life, second, property, third, environment. When you're talking about potential of maximum area burn and how to reduce it, if you have that in mind.
At the end, yeah, thank you, Rob. I don't know if Marc is here, but at the end, when we are taking this kind of decisions, we have the most important priority is avoid the collapse of our organization. So people, properties, and an ecosystem are priorities of this, the first level of operation decision-making process. But when we are trying to include the area burned or the hierarchy between human life, property, and environment, the first one is the avoiding collapse. And at the end, most of these priorities are in several polygons, and we have to decide using the window, how many time we have to develop each one. And at the end, if we have no resources or time to do both, we have to explain directly our authorities with a criteria, not because we are trying to do our best. We have to use this cost opportunity concept in order to give a clear idea to our authorities. So we could prepare more examples in these cases, not only in wildland urban interfaces, also in high level, in Pyrenees, in mountains, or high level environment values, and we will explain other examples. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Edgar. There's another question now. It says, will the resources be the same as thesis and voluntary pool, or in addition? Well, this question does not go to any person in particular, so I will try to answer it myself. So thesis and the voluntary pool are under the UCPM, the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, and AFAN network. In the future, we hope it will be integrated under the Union Civil Protection Mechanism. At the moment, it's not. It's just a project of the network, of the Knowledge Network Partnership. So, but our vision is that to sustain this network, it will be, we hope to be integrated under the UCPM in the future. But it doesn't have AFAN network does not has anything to do with resources that are at the moment under the voluntary pool. It will be great if once AFAN network finish, all the results from it will be useful for the forest fire assessment modules that are under the voluntary pool. At the moment, we know that there is 2 modules that offers assessment knowledge for forest fire. One of them is from Spain, and we hope that the outcomes of a FAN project will be useful for these modules to work under a common framework or a harmonized framework. We hope that will be in the next future. So said this, let's go for the next next question from Michael Bruce from United Kingdom. And how do you propose to write up the competences, and what structure and framework for the competences, and do you have a draft list of the competences? Edgar, would you like to answer this question?
Yes, thank you, Bruce. These are good questions. And of course, yeah, we have a draft list, and we propose to organize these competences in these 2 axes that we have shown you, depending on at which level of the decision-making process will be used, and also depending on how changing is this scenario. But this is something that we are at the beginning. We are not starting from 0, because as you know, we have current networks, we have experience, and obviously we will take in account all your suggestions that we have been working last year. So the proposal structure is what we have shown in order to give this harmonization framework, and we will build together all this list of the main competences of this discipline. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. I think we have, there's plenty of questions. Let's go for the next one. We have 50 more minutes, so let's go. It's Giuseppe Mariano, the logo. Could you please give me some indication about recognition on regional and subnational levels of skills and competences? Are they in charge of every single national partner, or the project will open via web some call for introducing other local information? Let me try to answer, Giuseppe, the first questions, and Edgar, I might need your help for this. The first question was, could you please give me some indication about recognitions on regional and subnational levels of the skills and competences? As far as I know, for forest fire, there's not any organization on European level that recognize competitions at, well, maybe regional, yes, but national, no, at least here in Spain. I'm not sure in other countries. But for me, the clear example of recognition of competences at an international level are the INSARAG guidelines for user teams, or maybe the World Health Organization's guidelines and competences for medical international teams. I'm not sure, Giuseppe, if you're talking about that, but those for me are the clear examples, or where should we be heading to develop competences around fire analysis, trying to develop this international framework so the fire analysis have a clear guideline, or how it should be trained, the science that is behind the methodology, and the different tools that can be used for this discipline. So I'm not sure if I have answered your question, Edgar. I don't know if you want to add something to that.
No, no, I'm sorry, Giuseppe. I hope we are working on build together the future EU competences, but European level, but I don't know how we could implement this. And as Juan has said, the integration in the EUCP, the EUCP mechanism could be a first step. I don't know. I don't know more than this.
And you were asking Giuseppe too, or the project will open via web some call introducing other local informations. We will, for sure. We will explain you in the next part of the webinar how to deliver different levels of engagement that the actors or organizations can have inside a fund network. Okay, and we would like to have really active partners, so will help us to develop this competences guidelines and this skills database that we have to develop, so we have a clear view of the reality of fire analysis at a European level in the different countries and in Europe. Okay, because with that we will be able to gather all this information and make these guidelines with a better outcome. Okay, with all this information coming from local levels too. So for sure, we will open a space so stakeholders and partners can work together for that. Okay. So let's go for the next question. It's Logan Alfonso. Thank you very much for this great presentation. And the question is how this analyst network will be used at a European level. Is it only based on knowledge sharing or deployment views? Well, I will try to answer also this one, Edgar, but more than welcome to have your view on this. Well, at the moment, it's now to establish the basis for the framework, okay, Lauren? It's try to gather all this common views and common protocol and procedures that we are being used under fire analysis discipline. Once we have that, we will, one of our objectives is, as I said before, is to be under the UCPM, is that that framework will be used under the UCPM for the modules that will develop this discipline. Okay, like the ones that I just put as an example. Okay, we will have this forest fire advisory team module that offers knowledge, but what type of knowledge, what type of reports and what type of expertise do they have? Well, at the moment, there's not a framework that says what are they capable of, what are the capacities of this, and we will try to develop this framework, common framework for all these modules that can be deployed, okay, for in international missions or international emergencies. So that's one of our views or missions of or objective or of this project. So it's not about only knowledge sharing at the moment. It's about in the future, one of the outcomes can be this framework for international deployment of fire analysis units, for sure. Edgar, do you want to add something to it? Okay, there's another question from Hector Alfaro, coming from Andalusia, Granada. And Edgar, you said fire analysis is a discipline. Is there a specific regulator or a standardized training? Thank you.
Well, in this case, Hector, and I think that after this question, there is another of Logan Alfonso, more or less talking about the same. We have 3 schools in these firefighter schools in this project, because of course we are keeping in mind that at the end, the last step has to be how can we implement these competencies and skills through the training programs. But please, Juan, but I think that in this case, in this project, we will stop at competencies and skills level in order to give the framework, because we want to harmonize, and after that, each organization, each country, each organization will develop their own training programs according to the competences that they could decide. Is this right, Juan? I understood well.
Yeah, Edgar, you're completely right. The aim of AFAN, one of the results of AFAN will not be a training program for fire analysis. We will seek for this competences, and as you know, competences is the basis to develop different training programs. Okay, there's different ways to develop different training programs, but the main thing for AFAN is to recognize or identify those competencies based on the functions of the fire analysis. And once we have that, every country can establish their own training program. My vision or my objectives in the future is that we can establish another harmonized training program under this competences that we will identify under the project. And maybe that training program can be under the umbrella of the Union Civil Protection Mechanism training program that it's already in place. But that's a long vision. It's not what we're seeking at the moment in a AFAN network, but it can be a objective in this medium long future, for sure. So thank you, Hector, for the question. Next one. Do we plan this map to be a source to find and request help competences for other experts during an incident? Wilfried, I'm not sure if you want to answer this question.
If we can use the map during an event.
Well, he's not saying exactly during an event. Do we plan this map to be a source to find and request help competences for other experts during an incident? Well, yeah, it says an incident.
So I think that it could be an idea of the European Commission, but during the AFAN project, we have to build a part of the knowledge network. So I don't have the answer. I don't know what the European Commission and the UCPM idea is. I don't know.
So the main objective of this map and the database is to know who is who, okay, to understand where the skills are, the expertise and the knowledge, okay. We all, different organizations, of course, they will have different knowledge and expertise. So the idea of this map and the database is to gather all this information into one place, to a hub and to have that available quick and fast. It's not meant to be a place where to find experts that can be deployed for an incident. It's not meant for that. It's just to stream this skills and competences and expertise around fire analysis that there is in different European countries. That's the main objective of this database and mapping skills, okay, and the map. So let's go for the next one, Laurent. I think we have already answered this one, Laurent. Is there any link with possible training courses in the future? As I said before, it's not the outcomes of this project is not to develop, one of the outcomes is not to develop a training program, but we hope it establishes the basis to develop a harmonized training program that we hope in the future can be under the umbrella of the UCPM. Okay. Giannis we have 4 more minutes to go, and whoa, a lot of questions. Maybe we have to stop. Okay. Giannis, did your fire risk assessment is interconnected with evacuation assessment? Edgar, I'm not sure if you want to answer this one.
Well, as we said before, thank you, Giannis. Fire analysis and assessment include not only during the incident, also before and also after that. And when you are planning on the preparedness phase, how you could do the evacuation, you are implementing fire analysis knowledge. And during the incident, when you are deciding if you have time and if your evacuation route is safety or is not safety, you are applying fire analysis assessment. So of course is one of the other decisions that you will manage during the incident. Yeah.
Okay, Rob Gazzara is not a question. He just replying to maybe one of my answers. We'll agree it will be good to have individual accredited training in each country based around the guidance of AFAN, accessible to both land managers, forester, and rescue services. Of course, Rob, maybe I made a mistake on how I approached the other answer, but for sure, this is not only the results of AFAN would not only be, or my vision is not only to be guidance for developing training that in the long future can be under the umbrella of the UCPN training program. For sure, we would like to be the basis for the different countries and organizations to develop their own training program, because competences training program are based on the final result. Okay, if we have identified competencies under this project, doesn't matter how you teach or train those competencies. What is key is that we all have those same competencies. Doesn't matter how you train them or how you acquire them. Okay, so that's not the importance of the training program based on competences. It's the final result. It's make sure that the people that will be certified as fire behavior analysts or whatever, they have the same competences and they understand each other and they can perform the same way and they have the same capacities. So each country, we hope they will develop their own training program based on the results of FAN for sure. And maybe in the long future, it will be useful to develop the competences of the forest fire assessment and advisory teams that are under the voluntary pool umbrella. Okay. I hope I have answered your question. Luan, how will you open the database? At what level? How will you recognize expert skills to be part of the database? That's a pretty good question, Luan. Wilfried, will you be able to answer this question, please? I will read it for you again. How will you open the database? At what level? How will you recognize expert skills to be part of the database?
I think, Juan, there are these two questions. Maybe the last one, the second one, is more for this first list of competences and skills that we will build with the feedback of our colleagues, all our colleagues, and with this draft list that we have. So maybe the second question is we will publish in our guidelines or in our deliverables the list of competences and skills, and according them, we will classify who say if has one or two or all of them. So at the end, in my opinion, each organization has to define which are the competences that they know that they have, and according this list of the deliverables. Okay.
Let's go for the last one. Núria, I know you're there just to tell me that we're out of time. We're 1 minute over the time, but there's one more question from Steve Gibson, and let's go for it. Fire training can be easily provided to meet competences, but in some European countries, gaining practical experience of some fire types is impossible. How do we share experience? Can this be provided through the international exchange? Well, thank you, Stephen, for this question. Yeah, sure, of course. We understand that not all the countries around Europe has the same problem around fires, and in some countries it's difficult to gain experience on fire analysis, and even in Spain, it is difficult because how many big fires do we have a year? Not too many, and so it is really difficult for the people to gain experience on those type of fires. So through AFAN and through the network, we would like to promote the exchange of experts during fire events. So in a way, the partners that will collaborate and will be active under the AFAN network, we will try to promote collaboration agreements between different organizations so they can share resources and share this expertise on fire analysis and around these partnerships that we will try to promote under AFAN. So yes, we will try to engage and promote this share experience and a tactical and strategic level for sure. And said this is the last question. Oh no, there's another one. But if you don't mind, let's go for the next section, okay? And we will try to.
There are questions that remain unanswered. We can bring them back at the question and answer section at the end of the webinar, or we could even consider including them in some minutes and answering them there.
Yeah. Well, is the last one. Let's try to answer this one. It's from Michael Bruce. This is going to be the last one, and I think we cover all of them. Certification will be dependent on assessment on competences. Will this also be delivered nationally? A useful tool to help different guarding instructors have some common standards in assessment guidance. Could this be delivered? Well, Michael, for sure. Certification of the competences that we can define under AFAN will depend on each country or each organizations. It will not depend on AFAN. AFAN will not promote a certification system for the competences. We will just define those competences and skills for the fire analysis discipline, but we will not promote any certification for those competences. That should go at the different organizations level or national level. That would be something that has to be at those levels, but not AFAN. Okay. So said this, let's go for the next part of the webinar. It's 12:20. We are 5 minutes overhead, and let's go for the next. And I think that will be me presentation, me presenting. So the next part of the webinar, let me present my screen. It's this one. Okay, this second part of the webinar will be done through this through Mentimeter, because we would like you to answer some of the questions that we will send to you, and it will be done through this web page called Menti. But don't worry, because when we need feedback from you with your mobile phone, you just have to scan a QR. I don't know how do you say that. And once you scan it, you just work through your phone and through the questions and answers that you will have as an option in your phone. Okay, but I will advise you when that will happen. Okay, so the main objectives of this presentation now is just to give you an overview of how the network will look like, and how the network that we're developing will look like in the future, and what is most important are the services and the products that we would like to come out from this network, so it will be useful for you, for the stakeholders, and for sure, if it's useful for you, it will be sustainable over the time. So we would like to have really good feedback from you to see if the way we're approaching the network and the way we are establishing the basis and the framework for this new network, it's not new, but for the AFAN network, it's okay with you, and it looks good to be useful and be and can be sustained once the project finishes. So let's go for it. So as I said before, AFAN will not develop a new network. That's crucial to understand. There's already in place a lot of networks around forest fires at Europe and European level. There's plenty of networks. There's some of them that works the discipline of fire analysis. Okay, we have a really good network here in Spain through the FAST module that has been implemented by our Minister of Environment. There's a lot of networks that connects fire analysis from Portugal, from Italy, from Catalonia, from UK, okay, and other parts of northern countries. So what AFAN aims objective is not to build a new network, is to focus on consolidating and empowering those networks, okay, by organizing a little bit their daily work or their work, and develop this framework of documents that establish how this network should work and what are the aims, objectives, and the services and products that offers this network. Okay, so the objective is to consolidate it, but also to empower the networks that are already in place and that are working at the moment. Okay. We have a great start. A fun project when we were developing the all the proposal for this project. We managed to gather a lot of organizations that support, a lot of letters that support the AFAN project. So at the moment we have more than 40 organizations identified that are interested in AFAN and that supported AFAN through their letter of recommendations when we send the proposals. And as you can see there in this map, there is a lot of different profiles of these organizations. We have training centers, we have network expanders, we have forest services, fire rescue services, volunteer organizations, research centers, okay, civil protection organizations. So we have a wide variety of different organizations and stakeholders that are interesting. I'm not going to say support, okay, but I'm saying that our interest in know what AFAN is may offer in the close and future. Okay, so we have a great start, and now we have to make all this different organizations. We have to try to build bridges and work together to make this network useful and sustainable in the future. So what are the functionalities of this network? This comes from a project called Net Risk Work. Okay, this idea, but it will be useful for us. But the functionality is, so every network must have functionalities to make it useful for the partners that are part of this network. So what are part of these functionalities? So the developing of a standard competences of those capacities, this common framework where we develop this and we define what are the competences that are behind of the fire analysis discipline. Okay, as I said before, who is who? We would like to screen at European level. What are the organizations that can support and make this network grow with their expertise and with their knowledge? And not all must be respawn organizations or fire and rescue organizations. Can be scientific organizations like the Joint Research Center that can be really useful for the fire analysis discipline with the technology and the knowledge and the expertise that they have on their side. So as Steve, one of the questions that Steve Gibson just would say, so we would like to promote exchange of experts through this network, okay, and in the future, and we would like that part of this expertise that need to be exchanged should be done through a emergency event when emergencies event happen. So this network will try to promote this exchange of experts or interoperability exchange during fire events, because as Steve was saying, it is hard for some countries to get expertise and competences and skills on different types of fire, because maybe in Northern European countries will not have the type of fire that we have. Southern European countries are the same. Okay. Best practice and tools publication, try to screen all this best practice that are being used in different organizations, countries, share and experience and lessons learned for sure. Okay, different outputs, interaction with the research, as just indicated with the joint research center, network visibility, okay, transfer needs to a European institution and interactions with other natural risks, for sure it can be useful. So these are the basis functionalities that we have defined for this AFAN network, okay? And who can be part of this network, or who we have identified that can be part of this network? Well, as you can see in this presentation, we have different actors. We can be individuals, freelance that are working on fire analysis. We know people that are now working as individuals. It can be organizations, public, private, different networks already in place. As I said before, training academies, it will be great to have into this network training academies that, as we said before, can use the guidelines that we will develop of competences, can be used as a basis to develop the training program around fire analysis. So we will encourage training academies to be part of this, because it will be a great place to distribute this knowledge and the competences through their training programs. Of course, project consultants. But it is crucial to understand that these actors will be involved at different levels of groups, and they will have, of course, different interests into the network. So we have identified that from these actors, we can have different final users, like the fire analyst units, okay, like Graf and Bombers de la Generalitat, or this the assessment team modules that we have in the voluntary pool, or fire risk managers that will have to develop we'll have to develop decisions and actions to reduce risk, and of course can use the methodology and the knowledge that can be gathered by fire analysis. Okay, so this can be the final users, contributors, as I said before, training academies, the Joint Research Center, research centers, emergency managers. These are organizations that will contribute into the network. Okay, will not be the final users using that knowledge and experience from the fire analysis, but it will for sure gather knowledge from this network and use it to develop new tools, to try to seek and understand what's happening with the new type of fires that we're seeing, etc., etc. Then we can have external experts like fire analysis units or expertise coming from abroad, EU, like United States, or maybe from Australia or other countries that have developed the fire analysis discipline and has developed for longer than we have probably. And maybe other organizations that will just have a passive role on the network and will just disseminate the products and the results of the network and just want to have information of the network just to use the outcomes into their organizations. Okay, next, what the network will offer, okay, as products. Let's talk first as products, and those are the products that were sent under the proposal. Okay, but first we would like to explain you a little bit the core values of the network. The two of the principles of the values are trust and credibility. No network can be useful or sustained over the time if there's not trustful over the partners that are part of the network, and the products and the actions that come out of it have enough credibility. Okay, so over the next months, we will try to build our network under the umbrella of trust and credibility. Of course, it has to be collaborative. okay, among partners and a stakeholder. And we will try to produce and to develop a space where stakeholders and partnership can encounter together and talk over the ideas that will create this network and vision. At the moment, there's a lot of countries that we know what are we facing in the close future about fires, but there are other countries that forest fires is something new for them. So we offer vision of what's happening around forest fires all over the world. Okay, well, not all over the world, but at least our European level. Okay, and we can offer different organizations and partners vision of where are we heading with fires and give different options on how to solve those problems that we're facing at the moment, or we'll be facing in the close future. So map of existing resources, one will be one of the products as we just explained, guidelines, different guidelines of competences, different tools, and how to do remote assessment. Okay. Harmonized framework on fire analysis, as we talk, and collaboration agreements and opportunities. This is one of the results through products that we want to achieve. And okay, so now if you will, I will ask you to get your mobile phones and scan this QR. Okay, once you scan it, you will enter Menti. Okay, there's another way to enter this questionnaire that we will do now. It will be through the Menti website, and you can put this number that shows on the top of your screen, 4814099, or just scan the QA. And we would like for you to answer this question. What would be from the services, sorry, here, from the services, from the different products that I just showed that AFAN network will develop, what would you think will be the most important or the most priority for your organizations? And please answer and we will see what you think. As I said, what will be the most important and priority for you from this products that? And we can see the answers in real time. Okay. So we have 16 answers. Let's wait 10 more seconds.
Juan, we don't see the answers in the screen.
Oh, okay. You're not seeing the, no?
No.
Okay, we have 10 for guidelines. I'm not sure why. But Núria, were you able to see my screen when I was passing the presentation?
Yep, yep.
So I'm not sure why we have not. So have you seen that I just changed the slide? Move forward, and now I'm moving backwards.
Really, maybe you can stop
Okay,
sharing
let me do
and
this.
share again your screen. Meanwhile, Alex is asking where to answer. There's two ways to do that, either through the QR code. Juan can show that in the screen.
Yep, let me show you that again.
And
I'm not sure.
there is a link that Mariona has copied in the chat box. Okay, I see you have found the way.
Okay, I think are you able, Núria, to see the QR code now in my screen?
I don't. No, I'm not seeing your screen. Perhaps we need to wait 1 second.
For sure, I'm sharing the screen right now.
I don't know, can others? Mariona, can you see the screen?
No, I cannot see the shared screen, Juan.
Okay, let me go for it again. Let me try it again. So I just quit sharing my screen right now, and there you go. Google Chrome. Okay. What about now?
No.
Okay. Maybe,
No.
Núria, can you get into Menti and maybe you can do the presentations, because I know it's at the moment they have answered 24 and we have 10, and the guidelines, fire analysis, competences, using tools, and remote assessment is the one that is the result, one of the results of the AFAN, one of the products that have win.
Yeah,
basically.
let me, if you stop sharing, I'll try
Yep.
to share, and I can go
Yep.
through.
All yours.
Let's see.
Yeah, Núria, we can
Yep.
see your screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And the answers also, yeah.
And there we have the answers. Okay, so let's leave it there. So as you can see from the audience, from the different stakeholders that we have, so the result of this question was the guidelines. It seems is the one that it's priority for different organizations. So okay, let's go for the other one. Let's go for the next one. So services. We were saying, the result of a fund network will not only be under products, but also services that can be offered to the different stakeholders and partners that are part of this network. So obviously, one of the services will be help to harmonize competences, capacities, and skills on fire analysis discipline for sure. Networking, that's key. Okay, build those bridges among partners and the stakeholders that are part of the network, so they can network together. Okay, representation, visibility, transfer needs to European institutions, interaction with other natural risk for sure. Okay, and identification of research needs. Also, and I think this is a key service, is up to date on wildfire analysis assessment knowledge. Okay, as you might be aware, in the last years, we have seen that fire behavior around different countries in the world, like United States, Australia, Chile, or even here in Europe, well, it's increasing at a speed that we cannot understand all the processes that are happening on those fire events. So at the moment, we expect to have into the network the expertise and the experts that are working on this knowledge frontier to understand what is happening on those type of fire events. Okay, so it's an up-to-date wildfire analysis assessment knowledge. As we were saying, interoperability. Okay, promote the exchange of experts during wildfire events and not during wildfire events for sure. Okay, and increase this interoperability into fire units by harmonize those procedures, tools, and methodology. Okay, and for sure share lessons learned that is linked to interoperability and up-to-date wildfire analysis. So the same question, just scan this QR code, and we would like to know what are your priorities for the networks regarding the services that I just mentioned.
Juan, while people is answering, perhaps to be conscious about the time, we have 4 minutes left in this section, so perhaps
Okay,
we can 5 minutes more, but then
sure.
we will move on. Thanks.
Okay. I think, yeah. Up to date.
What is clear is that no one needs representation and visibility.
Visibility. That's for sure. Okay, it seems clear that it's the priority for most of you. It's up-to-date knowledge, share lessons learned, best practice, and tool. So it's about sharing experience and knowledge to keep growing. Okay, let's move forward. Let's go for the last part. So the stakeholders, how the stakeholders can engage into the network. Well, there's going to be different levels of engagement. It will depend a lot about you. How active do you want to be part of this network? Okay, so we have identified different 4 levels of engagement. We have active, and we expect from the organizations and the stakeholders and the individuals that wants to be active into that they get involved into the task of the project through the collaborative approach, review, feedback of the outcomes, workshop, be active on the workshops and webinars and be part of it, etc., etc. That means very active, okay? And it will depend on you, what you decide. Another one will be through collaborator agreements. It's an active approach into the engagement level into the network, but at a lower level than the active. Okay, you will be involved in the workshops, you can be active in it, but you will not be really active on the outcomes of the project regarding on the review of those documents that we will be developing. Okay, it's more being active on the workshops, webinar, etc. Okay, it's a different level. Then we have focal point for region. It means that you can be in organizations that you just disseminate the information of the AFAN network through your region or your country, being a focal point, okay, of it. And then passive, I'm just getting information from this AFAN project, and it can be useful for disseminating or just use it in my organization. Okay, but I'm not very active into the network, and I'm not very active into the outcomes of it. So different levels of engagement. Please indicate your preference. Where do you think you will be? You were more likely to be in the network. Sorry, I had a problem with the connection. Okay. So great to see this. Everybody wants to be really active, really active. So we will explain now in the next slides how we will create those space for you that wants to be active into the network and how to communicate. So to finish, what will be the network? As you can see, we already have network in place, and basically what the network will do is to establish these rings of different engagement levels. So we have the final users, and we have the contributors, and we have the other stakeholders, and depending on the engagement level, you will be closer to the center of the network or not. Okay, but basically what AFAN will offer is what we just explained before, the products and tools, give this framework and organize all this and capitalize all this knowledge and experience and establish this framework of through products and services so that the network can be useful to different partners and profile of partners and of course to different organizations. Okay, so basically this is what we see, how we see AFAN network. Okay, but for sure we will be open to your different expertise and opinion about it. In the next months, we will be able to create a space where we can work with the different stakeholders that you just said that wants to be active into the network, just to gather all this knowledge and expertise that you have to develop this network. And I think, Núria, this is it for now. Well, what do you expect from a fan network? Okay, it's an open question. Just write whatever you feel free. Okay, feel free to write whatever you think that you expect from a fan network. And with this, we'll finish. Please be brief, okay? We don't have.
This perhaps could be an open question to also discuss after the webinar. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Okay. Okay, it seems pretty clear that what it interests more for the stakeholders is to share experience, lessons learned that will increase capacity and for sure will increase knowledge among partners, gaining new knowledge. Okay, cooperation. Okay. I expect a real network with real tools and dynamic behavior. Yeah, for sure. But as I said before, it will depend a lot on you, on the stakeholders. Okay, it will depend a lot on how we manage to create and empower the networks that we have already in place. And we'll. Okay, I think, Núria, we can move forward. We have a clear view. And yeah, this is it.
Yes, so now there is left a very small section to talk about the next steps. And those are basically to identify who would be interested in this active participation. We've seen that calendar before. There are a series of events that will happen. These would be our the events that AFAN would propose to contact and exchange between the network, at least on specific topics. You see, there is online webinar happening in April, and then 3 in-person or hybrid events happening in Spain, Italy, France. The project would have some resources to support expert travel, but of course that would depend on the restrictions we have. So we are going to open that as well to virtual participation. So from those that have identified different levels, we would like to know how involved you want to get. If you want active participation in all those events, we would then contact you. If you mentioned that you cannot attend all the events because your time is limited, but there is a number of events, perhaps 1 or 2, that it's on a topic that you are very interested on, we would contact you for those events. Let me share again the QR code. And of course, if you are very busy and you don't have time for being active and participating in the AFAN events, we would also understand. But we want to find a way to keep you still on the loop. So that would be one of the objectives. Okay, so from the people that are identifying here to being active and participating in all the events, or some of them, there's some of them, there's a final slide where if you want, you can include your email later on. So we make sure to take into account for the invitation sent for those events. It is really nice to see that everyone is engaged and would be engaged. We are creating a lot of expectation, I see. Okay, that's great. And finally, apart from being active in this workshop or virtual events that will happen, we would also like to know how we can engage you in the time between events, let's say, to share information. So you can see here that there is a proposal, option 1, for shared workspace at just Microsoft Teams, where we can share documents, chat, meet one-to-one, have shared repositories and documents for the network. There is the phone apps where we are all very used as well to share information much faster. We are also considering whether we should have this private space on the project's website, or to use existing platforms. There is the Fire-in platform. There is the Lessons on Fire platform that we could build in. So, well, I'm glad there is a large number of people saying that Microsoft Teams or shared workspace would be a good option, because this is what we were considering as our first option as well. Of course, it is not necessarily the only one. All right, and with that, we have come to the end of the presentation. This now it's for the ones that want to leave their email addresses because they want to be contacted to be part of the virtual events, the in-person events in the online platform or shared workspace that we define. If you can include it here, we would try to reach you anyway through the email list that we have to invite you to this webinar. But if you want to add it here, it would be much easier for us to identify who wants to take place. And I'm not going to show that part, of course.
Núria, we have received some questions, okay, about the presentation I've done. If you don't mind, while the people it's just writing their email, I will try to answer those questions, okay, and you might can help me on this. So is Angela from the Ministry of Environment here in Spain? She's saying hi and thank you for counting with the Spanish Forest Fire Assessment and Advisory Team here today and hopefully along the project. My questions related to the last presentation: how will AFAN interact with the other existing networks? That's a good question, Angela. We have identified different networks and we will invite them to join us. To join this networks that we have identified from the different European projects that we've been involved, etc., or from different partners that are involved in different. How we will interact, I cannot answer this question at the moment, but as you can see from the presentation, is through the services and through the products is the way that we would like to interact with this other networks to make so this network can empower our network. But we have to first work a little bit on the project, and then we will see what would be the best way to interact with those networks.
Perhaps to add, Juan, here that we understand that the networks are there and are very well defined, and what we don't want with AFAN is to repeat or overlap what already exists. We want to create something that makes sense on a scale that makes sense and that supports what's already there, empowers it, as Juan was mentioning. So many things are not defined at the moment, but we would like very much to interact with the existing networks and find a common point to build together, complement what's there with what we can provide from the AFAN perspective.
Okay, the other question from her, from Angela too, was how will AFAN transfer the needs to EU institutions? How will the needs will be transferred from AFAN to the EU institutions? I don't know if you want to answer that, Núria.
Our first approach, and there may be several, but it could be through the DG ECO is establishing what is called the network partnerships. This was the funding that we got for the AFAN project, and through these network partnerships, it would be one of the ways that we raise the knowledge and the expertise to the DG ECO. But there may be other ones that we would need to explore.
Yeah, as I said before, maybe I know that at the moment the Union Civil Protection training program, it's they're looking to improve it. So in the future, we hope that we can integrate some forest fire training into it, okay? And in a way, we can include fire analysis training into it, okay? So that can be another way. So, but we're starting the project, so we need some process. We need to work on it so we can answer these questions in the right way. And the last one was, what will happen with the ambitious network after the 18 months when the project ends? Well, as I said before, and we have already talked with our PO, with our project officer, the idea is that all the outcomes of the network, of the AFAN network, can be embedded into the knowledge network partnership program that it's under the DG ECO, so it can be sustainable over the time. For us, we think it's key focus on that, because we are not sure if we are not under the umbrella, the network can keep moving and can be sustained. We're not sure about that. So one of our focus is to try to engage or to embed all these results on the network into the Knowledge Network Partnership, under which AFAN has been funded. And that is one of the key things. Okay. And there's no more questions.
And we are past the hour as well. So
2 minutes is not bad, Núria. Pretty good.
in that case, I guess we can thank everyone for being in the webinar, for being listening, and for engaging in what we try to organize as a sort of interactive webinar. We appreciate very much all your time. And hopefully we will prepare some information to share with you, and we would like to engage with you in all this process and of developing this network and in the AFAN project overall. Thank you also, Juan, Edgar, Marc, Wilfried, everyone who has been presenting and collaborating.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you. Bye.